All good? You can hear me? Okay, good. Okay, look, just a bit of general talk to start with. Okay, we had the field prac night the other night, and I think while a lot of people were hesitant about being there, I think they found it really beneficial because on our field or your field day practical, you've got to be up to speed with doing inverted readings, change stations. Your last reading becomes your first reading, and I think everyone that was there, there was a lot of the people said that they were glad that they came in just for the experience. Okay, just to freshen it up in their minds. One of the things that I'd also like to talk about is I'll put this up. Right. Unfortunately, I've got to go through Wollongong because this is where we. Okay. Now, anyone who's not on there, okay, we'll go through the 24th, which is the first night, the first field day. And what we'll do, we'll talk about if your name's not there on the 24th, you're not going on the 24th. Okay. Does everyone get that? Now, you've had plenty of time to fill it in. Look, there's 35 people coming on the first Saturday, and there's 24 on the second Saturday. 35, there can't be anyone that's going to sneak in and think, oh, I'll turn up on the Saturday because Glenn won't care. He'll say, oh, okay, well, I'll put you with someone. We haven't got the room on that first Saturday, okay? If your name's not there, you can't go. Okay, all I can recommend, if you can't go on the 31st, okay, anyone can take a screenshot of that and have a look at it again later on. This is the 31st. Did I say that one was the 31st? That's the 24th. This is the 31st. Okay, take a screenshot of that if you like. But they're the only people at this stage that are going on the 31st, and these people here haven't made their minds up yet, so they've got no choice. They've got to go on the 31st, or they have to do it next year. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Now, my only advice is if something's happened, you've got a family commitment that's cropped up, and you're down for the 31st, and you can't possibly attend, contact some of these people in this group here. I'm sure there would be people in there that could swap. This was probably their first choice on the 24th, but I'm quite sure there would be people in there that can actually attend on the 31st. So if something has come up for these people on the 31st, it's up to you to try and swap. It's not up to me. It's not up to Brett. It's not up to anyone else. It's up to you. So if you can't attend on the 31st and you want to go on the 24th, contact someone in there. Put it in the chat box and ask them. But that's as it stands at the moment. All right, so that's not interesting to anyone else. But yeah, that's there for you to see, and they're confirmed. If you want to change, you can't just turn up on the day. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, so we've done that. Okay, look, at this stage, you've only got maybe 13 or 14 weeks to go. So try and maintain your focus on completing the course. You've come so far throughout the year. You're getting pretty close to the end. So I know that you're it's probably wearying people down, but just maintain your focus, okay, because you are getting close. Now, having said that, with the 13 or 14 weeks to go, I mentioned the other day and sent out a message about some people that are trying to take advantage of the system by thinking that they can actually do quizzes, open a quiz, close a quiz, then review the quiz and get the answers. I can see what you're doing. Brett can see what you're doing. So if you've got 13 or 14 weeks to go, don't risk it, because if you're not allowed to do the assessment because you're flaunting the rules, you've got yourself to blame, and you look at it and you say, well, geez, I only had 13 or 14 weeks to go and I blew it. Okay. So that's just for a bit of our house talk. Now, tonight we're going to be looking at some surveying, council requirements, a surveyor's website. You know, there was a surveying website that I looked at that I thought we could get a lot from. And then we're going to look at there's a few PowerPoints, only a couple, there's not that many slides. Then there's a contour plan and excavation to an RL, which have got a height of collimation booking sheet, a rise and fall booking sheet, plus the other calculations for the length of the line and the amount of excavation. So that'll take you a while. All right, so we'll just get started on our first one. That's just a link. Now, this is Canberra, but it actually just goes through a bit of an outline on what certificates and what surveying requirements some councils want you to submit. We're not going to look at Planning and Development Act 2007 because, one, I don't understand it. So we'll look at the basic things that you need to be familiar with. Okay, and if we look at this, I can't make that any bigger, but I think you can probably read it. You know, when a survey certificate is required, you may need to submit a survey certificate if you're lodging a development application. It could be for redevelopment. They might need the certificate to confirm that the fences are in the right place. A lot of people think that if the fence is up, that's where the boundary is, but a lot of the time the fence is not in the right position. And how I would explain that, would you trust a fence erector to survey your property? And the answer is no. I'm not saying anything against people that erect fences, but they're not surveyors. Okay, so you need to make sure. It could even be a retaining wall. The retaining wall may not be in the right place. You've got to get things surveyed, even if it's an existing property, just to make sure that everything is as per the plan. This talks about a little bit about additions and renovations and things like that. And you can read that as good as what I can. But okay, when does a survey get done? Obtaining a survey certificate early on will help architects or building designers and authority staff who will be assessing the proposal. So, okay, it's helping everyone. Okay, we talked about contour plans and how that affects the design of your house. A registered surveyor can also establish accurate locations or of other features on your block. It could be buildings and fences, trees. They make notes on trees. If you're submitting a new plan to a new house plan to council and there's trees on the block, they want those trees noted on your survey plan. And that's because they have a Tree Preservation Act. So you just can't go in there with your chainsaw and just cut all the trees that you think are in the road. Okay, so when it's surveyed, they survey everything. The information is useful when preparing the analysis and during the early discussions. It's also good. Brett's going to show you, he's got a great plan to show you. It's a survey plan and it shows you the relativity of levels in house design, and it is something that I'm sure everyone will be able to relate a lot more to, rather than talking about what you see through council and just what we've seen up to date. The other thing, on sites with significant changes in level, the information will help establish floor heights and the interface between external and internal spaces. It's mainly here the information will help establish floor heights. Okay, it impacts on everything, but floor heights is the main thing with contour plans, with survey plans. And before your building work starts, it's important to make sure that the proposed work is on your land and wholly contained within the boundaries of your block. As I said, if you're the first house, or you're in a new subdivision with nobody on either side of you at this stage, you have to ensure that your building work is only on your block. Otherwise, when the neighbours build and they say, heck, you've encroached onto our property, you've got an expensive exercise to rectify it. Okay, correctly position on your block in relation to your boundaries and set out according to the design plans. The other thing that's really important these days is the height of houses. So most councils have a building height of 8.5 or 9 metres. Okay, and that is the vertical. It's vertical from any natural ground place to the top of the building. Okay, so there's no place can exceed it. No place can exceed those height restrictions. Okay, in some councils, what they do with new houses, you've not only got to provide a boundary survey, you've got to provide a height survey as well, so that you actually know that so that you know that it is within those heights. I mean, there's no use in having a height restriction of 9.2 metres or 8.5 metres, and the house is built and it's 500 millimetres over the height that it was supposed to be, because in the same instance, the council has every right to tell you to rectify it. Okay, so your levels and surveying are really very, very, very important. Okay, and they all have to be registered surveyors. Yes. Oh, okay. Sure. So is that back on? Okay, so.
We can't see, Glenn.
Is that it?
Yeah, no. Not yet, mate. Still can't. We can see the picture of you.
Oh, okay. And not the. Oh, okay.
Good screen, Glenn.
Oh, okay. I know what. Yep. Okay. Now I'm with you. Screen 2. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry about that. I don't know what. I must have just knocked it or something. All right. So, all right. That's that little bit with survey certificates. Now, this one here, this was Survey 360. Now, that's the name of the company. I'm not doing an advertisement for them, but they had a pretty good website, and I thought there was some things there that would be pretty useful to you. Just have a look at. I'll just show that one, and I'll just go down to that one there. I checked the link today and it was working. Heaven forbid if it doesn't. Okay. Surveying. Let's go back. Okay, that's probably something to do with cookies. Okay, look, I had plan B because I thought this mightn't work. So what I did, I'll open that up. You can have a look at yourselves, because it must have something to do with some of the security here. But okay, what I did, I took screenshots. So of each one of these. Now, okay, on their web page, and I'll make this a little bit bigger. On their web page, and unfortunately, that's it. Okay, so what they did, you could click on the link. This link here has as constructed surveys. So it just has a description of what as constructed surveys and certification. You know, upon completion of a new building, the certifier will request an as constructed certificate from a surveyor to confirm that the building has been constructed in the correct location on site as per the approved plans, and that all building work is contained wholly within the property boundaries. So, okay, I'll just do this next one too. These surveys are becoming increasingly common, particularly on small lots with zero. That's zero lot side setback. Okay, so with the smaller blocks and building closer to boundaries, all these things with walls and eaves and gutters are really, really important. So what I did on that site, and you can maybe go to the website, which might be a little bit easier, was we're just doing as constructed surveys. That's one. There was another one there, contour surveys. Okay, so this was the same. It was just on the web page. I could click on all these links and it just described the contour survey. The contour survey is a critical component of the initial design stages of a new home or building project. We've discussed that. It goes down here. It talks about a contour survey involves a survey of a vacant site and preparation of a plan to show the contours / lay of the land and all existing site features, including services. And we just said a minute ago that would include trees. Okay, it says contours of the site to the Australian height datum. Okay, that's really important. Okay, and that's AHD, and we saw that film on AHD the first night. Brett put one together to explain what the AHD is. And what we generally have on a building site is a temporary benchmark for construction. Okay, site boundaries, existing fences are noted, vegetation, and I just said before we talked about trees being on a contour plan, visible services, but yeah, and down here a little bit further, this plan will form the basis of the site plan for a new build and will be used by the designer or architect to determine a number of site requirements, including but not limited to cut and fill volumes, which is what we did with the Smith plan, which you did in plans and estimates. Okay, so we used that. We had contour heights that you did calculations for spoil. So yeah, you can see the relativity to it. So that's that one. What was that? Contour surveys. Okay, detailed surveys. I'll just go through the lot of these detailed surveys. And as I said, you can log on to this site and you'll see it. But as I said, it was handy just to click on each one of these and just see exactly what it was. A detailed survey is basically a more involved contour survey plan. Okay, it outlines all the features. It goes through some of the other things here. I'm not going to read everything through there because some of it's just repetitive. It locates, okay, on a survey, on a survey plan, you need a benchmark. Okay, everything is relative to the benchmark on the curb and gutter, or possibly on a brick wall or a stone wall, so that you can go up and down from that. Okay, so that's more what's really important for builders and people on a construction site doing houses anyway, is a benchmark. It's got all this which we've talked about: site boundaries, fences and walls. As I said, never ever go off a fence or a wall because they just put fences up. They don't survey where they go. Eave and ridge heights where they're applicable. And then down here, okay, as I said, some of this is a little bit of an advertisement, but I thought it was a pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good example of. That's the one I want there. Pretty good example of. So that one there was contour plans or detailed surveys. Height certification. Now this is one that gets overlooked a lot. Okay, there's a number of height factors that need to be considered when designing and building a dwelling to ensure it complies with the site-specific height requirements. Okay, Many councils will impose a maximum building height above natural ground level, and it's not, you can't actually build the site up to so you can build higher. It goes from natural ground level, and it's the certifier who will require a certificate from a licensed surveyor confirming that the new dwelling has not exceeded this limit. Okay. There's also other things that could be required to see if they comply, and that's flood levels, you know. So, like I said, you can read a lot of these things yourself. But this side here I just found was pretty good. So that was our height certification, height setouts certification. I'm not going to read through that one. You can see what it is. What there are, there's some exercises that refer to each one of these: house setouts, contour surveys, identification surveys, as constructed surveys, detailed surveys, and height certificates. So we'll, when you start the activities, your activities will refer to these, each one of these. I'll just open that one too, seeing I've opened them all. Just an identification survey. Investigation of encroachments, you know, possibly replacing boundary marks. Look, you can read a lot of this yourself, and you will have to do the quiz. But it's a very good resource. Just close that. Okay. Now, there's a couple of PowerPoints. I'll get through them pretty quick so you can get onto the activities. This is a subdivision plan, just a bit of an example of one. Okay. What it is, this is what you would do maybe in a new subdivision. Over here is how they identify some of the blocks, the lots. Okay, these are the lots, the street, tells you the number of square, whoop, we don't want that. We want to zoom out. Oh, okay, so. Hang on, we've had a hiccup with technology. Okay, there we go. So, okay, these were the lots. It shows you this figure here. Lot 307 is a block that's 651.8 square metres up here, and that's an easement. That is an easement that goes down and around there. Okay, there are within the plan methods to identify the easement. Okay, here it is. I could probably make this better, but I don't know how. So, okay, it's telling you the easement to drain water is 1.5 metres wide. Easement for pad mount substation is 2.7 metres wide. There's an easement for underground cables 1 metre wide. Okay, so this is the information, sort of information that you would get with, okay, in a subdivision plan. That's just a contour plan. If you have a look here, there's a benchmark in the curb and gutter with an RL of 15.10, 15.1. Okay, it identifies some small trees. Okay, there we have our trees, 700.8 square metres, and there's a pit down the back. Okay, top of pit, RL 13.28. So that's a survey plan, and that's the sort of information that you get on it. Okay, so that's one done. Okay, so we'll go to setting out with some star pickets. We'll make this pretty quick. This one is from Nowra, I think. So all you people down in Nowra, you've got an honourable mention here, I think. Is that Nowra? Could you tell me if that's Nowra? Is it? Well, there you go. Sorry, Nowra. I got you all excited about a big mention there, and it's Wollongong. Okay, so this is just, and this is exactly, or not exactly, but pretty close to what you've got to do on your field day. You see these star pickets? Part of the field day assessment is safety. You can't have star pickets without caps. Okay, and I understand you've got to drive the picket in before you put the cap on, but you can't have all these pickets in with no caps. So as you actually complete putting your picket in, put a cap on it. Okay, safety is part of your assessment, so just be aware of that. The other thing is to don't drive the pickets. The pickets are probably 900 millimeters high. Okay, don't drive them in 500 mil because you have to get the picket out at the end of the day. Okay, just drive it in 200 mil. The ground is really hard. So you've got to use your judgment as to how far you drive the pickets in. Okay, but like I said, you have to get the pickets out at the end of the day. So don't muscle up and see how far you can drive them in. Okay, so sorry, I didn't finish. Yeah, well, in Wollongong we will be using star pickets. Okay, and that was what we were just saying as a permanent marker in an area. It doesn't have to be a new area; it can be an old area. That's it for that. So that's that PowerPoint done. Okay, this is just a little bit on site set out, and I'm not a fan of PowerPoints, but sometimes you can get a whole lot of information over in a really quick fashion. Okay, these are our hurdle profiles. Okay, there we go there. I should have read it. A hurdle profile. I was trying to think what sort of a profile it was. It's really important to get this square. This is all students, there's different ways you can start setting out. This peg may be driven in on the corner, and you might know that this has to be 2 meters away. So you can drive a peg in 2 meters away. Don't drive the peg in up here because you know that's going to throw the whole thing out of square. Try and get it square off something. Put it 2 meters apart, put a nail in that and a nail in that 2 meters apart. And then if this is 5 meters away, you hook your tape or have someone holding the tape down there on the nail. You have another peg up there ready to go, and you have the other tape here. And you've done the diagonal calculation, so you know exactly where that peg has to go, and you can put a nail in the top of the peg when it's exactly square because you know the diagonal. Whoop. Okay, so then we just jump straight onto this is a hurdle profile as well. You can see could be a deck or something, might be holding something up. But the post, it was important to get the posts in, so they set it out. They set it out square. I anticipate it was set out square, and then they concreted their posts in, their treated pine posts. All right. I think that's okay. This is the other thing. This is how we'll be setting it out. You'll have information on the top. You'll have marks on the top saying the outside of the building. We'll have star pickets. You could have, I think most of the ledges are possibly decking or 65 by 35 or 90 by 35. So, yeah, we won't be going into plumb bobs or anything. Okay, this says that's got information. This was an actual job, and it said this could have said it was 1 meter to the boundary, and he's put a nail in there. Okay, there's information. Only the person that's actually filled it in would be able to probably understand exactly everything that was described on there. Okay, this one's setting out a small deck. Okay, you've got the 3, 4, 5. You can measure a diagonal. So there are various methods that you can use. All right, I think, okay, that one there, it's just a continuation of it. This is setting out for a footing. You can see that line is in, that string line is inside this line here. What happens sometimes if there's an excavator, a backhoe coming in to excavate the footings, he wants the outside of his bucket marked. Okay, so that all he does is go along that line with the outside of his bucket, and if you've marked it straight, your trench will be pretty straight. Okay, but a lot of the time you might have to mark out that 100 or 150 mil, whatever it might be, on your plan. Okay, and that's generally, and there's probably more ways you can do the backhoe excavation, but that's probably just a common one. Okay, and the last one is this. Now, that is what we don't do. Okay, you have to have picket caps or bar caps on top of everything. That's just dangerous, and that's exactly what we don't want. There's no, even the pickets haven't got caps on it. This was just a photo I got off the internet, but that's exactly what you don't do. All right, so we'll close that one. All right, so we have 5 more PowerPoints to go. Just kidding, there's only 2, and they haven't got too many slides. So this is just setting out a strip footing. Okay, this was a really interesting job. I don't know whether anyone else has seen one like this. I have never seen one like this before. What they did, they drove these, I assume they were treated pine posts. Okay, first they came and set this footing out. They set the house out. And then they had a machine, an excavator, go there, and he was driving these posts into the ground in a certain position. And if you look at them, they're all in a certain position. There's a survey peg there. I was wondering, I was driving past this site and I was wondering what they were doing. And then this was as it dried out. So what they had done, all those timber posts were in the correct position. They'd had a surveyor there, they'd put everything in the right spot, and then they came in and they excavated around the post, which would have been a feat for the operator to do, but by the look of thing, the trenches are all straight. Then what they did, after that, not that way, that way. Then what they did after that, if you have a look, they put steel in. Okay, this was a method of piering, of supporting a footing which is supporting the house. And like I said, I had never seen it before. So, you know, who designs the piering requirements? Well, it has to be engineered. Who set it out? Certainly a registered surveyor set it out, and then maybe a builder came in. I'm not sure, but for something like that, to have these posts driven in at the distances apart and in a straight line, I would probably be leaning towards a surveyor. Okay, one other interesting thing with this is this steel. If I can blow this up a little bit, I wish if you have a look, that's got a bit of 15 mil steel through the post. see the holes, and I know it'd be really hard. I can see the holes, but I'm not sure that you could. They've drilled holes through all these posts. They've cut them off at a certain height, and I'm not sure whether that is to tie the footing to the ground so that everything's attached. If anyone's seen any of these or participated in putting a footing down like this, it'd be interesting for you to, possibly explain it a little bit more. So, okay, you can see the steel still in there. It just goes back to a normal footing. So what this is just peering down. Okay, oh, there we go. And 15 bars through the top. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I've never seen it before. I couldn't ask anyone because I never saw anyone there to ask. But okay, and this is just the lapping of steel and things, and there we have that. And that's exactly what your bars should have on them. They should have bar caps. Okay, that's it looks nice and safe. So you can see that timber peering. In my experience with timber in the ground is I'd be pretty reluctant to even treated pine. The treated pine is only treated on the outside, and if it's 100 mil in diameter, it's only treated for maybe 10 mil or 12 mil around the outside. So the inside is still susceptible to termite damage. Okay, so that was it. That was just an interesting job. Yeah, it is, yeah. Okay, so that was setting out a strip footing. Okay, the other night, Brett, for the students that didn't come in, I believe what Brett showed us, and I'd never used one either, theodolite. This has just got a few photos. I don't think Brett's was anything as fancy as that, but this is what surveyors use. They can do the calculations on their instrument, and they can, it's got, I've never used one. I've never been with anyone that's used one, so I can't offer anything other than to say that surveyors use it and they have to be 100% correct every single time they do a calculation. But it's the same principle. You're looking at things, through like a telescope. So there was only a couple with that. Okay, now that was that's a total station that was called. Now, what we're going to do just briefly, I'll just open this up. Okay, now this is your exercise tonight. Okay, now just with this, one of the comments that we had the other night on the prac night at Wollongong was to write, to complete a booking sheet by hand is quite difficult. One of the reasons, a couple of the reasons that it's difficult is one, where you're trying to write down is outside. You're not sitting down at a desk, so you've got to compromise a little bit with your facilities that are available. Not everyone's handwriting is as good as it possibly could be. Last year we had a couple of students came in and they used their phone. They bought in a small laptop or tablet, and they had this set up. They had their columns out like this, and they filled it in. Now, one of the things that happened just on the field day, and I don't want to harp back to the field day too much, is that it's pretty hectic. It's a Saturday morning. Some people still go out on the Friday night and they're a little bit tired, and they've got a Saturday night coming up. So, by lunchtime, everyone's, a little bit over it. They're still getting on with their work. and some come up to the room and they complete the assessment, and others say, oh look, you know, I'm exhausted, I can't possibly do any of those equations, and I can understand that. So they go home. What happens, they have a great night Saturday night, and Sunday they don't feel like doing it. Monday night they have to come to TAFE. They've been at work all day, and it's probably Tuesday or Wednesday before they look at it, and they look at their handwriting and they're setting out and they're lost. It was great while it was fresh in their mind, but they're lost. Not everyone, but if you actually record all your information on your sheets to start with, and if you do it correctly, it'll be so much easier for you. You know more about the technology that you would need to do that, but I'm quite sure there's apps and things that you can actually download. All right, so that's my recommendation for you. Don't leave it till the Saturday morning that you're supposed to be there. Try and do it beforehand and work out a strategy that you're going to have in place. All right, so the other thing just with these booking sheets that you're going to do tonight, do your checks. If you balance, your booking sheet's correct. If you don't balance, your booking sheet is not correct. All right. Now, I'll just go through this once more, how we actually use the, if we need to, when you do this calculation, it'll say from the highest RL. So this is C1 to D1. So C1 to D1 is here, and the highest RL is C1. So, okay, what I would do, it's 4.78 millimeters. So I'll start again. I right click, I go to format, I go up here, and this is in centimeters. Someone was clever enough to, okay, so it was 5 millimeters. Okay, this isn't an architrave that it has to be 100% fitted. So there's my, where it has to go. I grab one of these, I right click again, I'll go again, I right click, I drag it up there, and okay, that's it. Okay, so then I can drag, okay, see what I did there? Now, okay, that's panic station. So all I do is I go back to the back button and it goes back there. Okay, so all those things happen all the time. All right, so I just thought I'd get through it. This calculation, okay, the easiest way to do this is put your 19.3, you only need to do it once. If you look at this, 19.3 is between D1 and C1. So there's the first one. Where else would it be between? It would be between C1 and C2. So I would put that there. What it is, it's just trying to get in a routine. So I would write down all my contours here for 19.3. When I finished, I would then put 19.9 in. And then I would actually mark my contours. I wouldn't do any of these calcs over here yet. I would just set up where my contours are, where my intersections are, and I would put my RLs in, and then I would start over here. When all this is completed on this side, I would then move over here. There's the formula, highest RL minus contour level divided by highest level minus lowest level times our line length of 50. Okay, so hopefully now we're doing the whole combination tonight, or you're doing the whole combination tonight. Okay, the same, okay, one thing I didn't show you again up here is to insert. So, okay, when you want to insert that little wiggly line, freehand it, you grab it, and if I wanted to go from here, I move my mouse to where I need to go, I left click, and then I hold my finger on it the whole time. If I wanted to go around in circles, as soon as I take my hand off it, it's difficult to start again. Okay, so that's that. Now this last one here with your spoil calculation, we read the question. We've got to go down to an RL of 18.8 and we allow 15% bulking. So this has been filled out for you, so you don't even have to think about which ones are 18.8. You've got the 4 grids there. Okay, you just follow the formula that you have already you have on another sheet. Okay, so you go A1, you write down all the grid points down here, A2, A3. Okay, and our grid level, the grid level at A1 is 20.43. And we go minus our RL required, which was 18.8. And then when we do that, we get an answer of 1.2, 1.63. Maybe that might be the right answer. And we just go the same again. Put all your grid points down here first. Put all your grid levels in there, and then do your answers. Okay. You don't have to do it that way. That's just a suggestion. All right, so that's it for the learning content tonight. The rest of them, it's just activities that you have to complete. So I'll just go in and open up all the activities. Do you want to keep the last? No. I'll just stop the recording. Done. Okay, so I'll just go through now and open the activities. Just the one thing there, I said, if you can't access that Survey 360, all the information is in that folder there. Okay, because there's a quiz that goes with it. I've just opened the quiz that goes with that Survey 360.